Folks. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's program on stretching breaks. I do have the chat box open, so if you have any questions, you want to pop them up in the chat box or comments. Again, sorry for the technological difficulty early on. Anyway, so welcome to today's program on stretch breaks. My name is Marlene. I'm a certified personal trainer and a health coach. And today we're just going to be talking about stretching, different kinds of stretching, and then we're going to be doing some stretching. So if you've joined any of the other programs, you know that I like to do a quick little anatomy lesson. Our body is made up of our skeleton. It's about 206 bones in an adult. We were born with over 300, but many of them fuse together. And it's connected at the joints, things like your ankles, knees, hips, shoulders, etc. The muscle is attached to the bone with tendons and ligaments, and all of that's covered with a thick, dense connective tissue called fascia. And all of these things together need to move well in order for our body to be able to move. And stretching lengthens that muscle tissue, increases flexibility. That in turn improves your muscular balance, allows for greater range of motion, improves your mobility and strength, and basically just allows us to move better. Okay. So, and our bodies are designed to move. Humans like to move. It's what we do since from the time we become mobile as babies. So motion is basically lotion, rest is rust. And unfortunately, the way we live our lives these days, it often means that we don't get enough movement. The average person's now seated up to 12 hours a day, and that inactivity is a leading risk factor for illness and disease. And so we really need to increase our movement in general. The effects of sitting too much, if you look, our poor little skeleton over here sitting, are quite a few, and it doesn't just affect your musculoskeletal system. Although our muscles do adapt to that inactivity, you can see here with call him George on the screen here, you know, the way we are sitting at a desk often in front of a computer for long periods of time can create musculoskeletal imbalances. But it doesn't just affect your musculoskeletal system, it also affects your respiratory system. It's really hard to get a good deep cleansing breath when you're in that forward position, you're shallow breathing. Circulatory system, you know, you get those cold hands and feet when you've been sitting too long because that blood is not pumping hard enough to reach those extremities. Your digestive system slows down, less motility. And even your metabolic system, we aren't able to utilize the sugar in our system as well when we are inactive. So there's a lot of different reasons why movement is such an important thing. And taking regular stretching breaks, the good news is that, you know, regular stretching breaks can help to correct many of the effects of lack of movement. Standing more, sitting less, stretching more, lower a lot of those health risks, improve your blood circulation, improve breathing, can help reduce your blood pressure. Beyond that, reduce injury, improve your athletic abilities, and really improve your focus and in the long run productivity. It seems counterintuitive that the more breaks we take, the more productive we are, but really science has proven that to be an actual fact. So this is just a quick little share that we have here. We're going to do some stretching. So I'm going to stop that share and let's get some stretching in. So welcome to my little office here. So when we talk about stretching, there are different kinds of stretching. There's static stretching is what I think we often think about with stretching, where, you know, perhaps maybe you're laying on your back and you're bringing your leg up to full range and you're holding it and breathing through it. And static stretching is a kind of stretching where you'd hold that for anywhere from 15 to upwards of 60 seconds. And that kind of stretching is really great for at the end of a workout, or at the end of the day, or if you do a little program in the morning at the end of, you know, after you've warmed up in the mornings at the end of, that kind of an activity. Active isolated stretching is where you're going to hold that stretch for a lot less time, just a few seconds or more, and then repeat it more frequently. So a static stretch, you might only do 2 or 3 stretches for the same muscle, holding it for longer periods. Static, active, isolated, you're holding it less, but you might be doing upwards of 10 repetitions of it. And that is great for before a workout or throughout the day to incorporate more movement into your day and more stretching. Then there's dynamic stretching. Those are the kind of things where you see people do before workout. They might be doing high knees, trying to pull up to the back, butt kickers, things like that. Excellent way to do to warm up for a workout before you add load to any muscle group, to just get it through its range of motion. Helps to warm up the joints as well. Today, we're going to focus on a little bit of static stretching and active isolated stretching, just really to improve the flexibility and the function in the main areas of your body that are impacted by too much sitting. So kind of where we saw where poor George on the PowerPoint was all kind of condensed down in all of those areas. And so before we get started, we want to really talk about what is proper posture, right? So proper posture is basically when you're in alignment where your ear is over your shoulder, shoulder is stacked right over your hip, over your knee, over your ankle. So that's proper posture. All of that sitting has a tendency to round us out. So your ear may be forward of your shoulder forward of your hip when you go to stand up. So a lot of the work that we do as trainers when we're going to, train somebody is to get them into that proper posture. One of the things you can do is just when you get up during the course of the day, take a look in the mirror, perhaps where you are. If you're looking at the back of your hands, that's telling me that your shoulders are turned forward and probably a little bit hunched. If you can see shoulder blades sticking up in the back, then you're not in this downward position. So you want to be looking at the sides of your hands. You want your shoulders down and back if you're way up here. So those are just some cues that you can use for yourself to say, oh, maybe I need to get a little bit loosened up in that area. So proper posture is the first thing. So areas of our body that we get tendency, I'm sorry, I got to turn you over here so you can see me at my desk. Areas of your body that really take a lot of the brunt of abuse from that sitting is certainly your neck because of that forward tilt. What we call the T-spine or the mid-back, it's about down to the bottom of your rib cage, which tends to be forward as well. Lower back pain, but that a lot of times is coming from the front of your body, your hip flexors, because they're in this contracted position all day and they don't want to open up. So you get pain here. And then your hamstrings, tightness through your hamstrings and a little weakness in your glutes. So those are the areas of your body that really are impacted by this forward seating motion. When you're sitting at a desk, a few things you want to also cue up when you're at your desk. There's a couple of things you want to do. First off, in your chair, you want to make sure that you want to be all the way back in your chair so that your lumbar spine is protected. And your hips should be slightly higher than your knee on that chair. You want to be able to touch the floor with your feet, but your hips should be slightly higher. And then in terms of being at the desk, you should be looking straight ahead at your screen. If you're down here with a laptop, that's going to force you in this downward position more. So just working with your workstation a little bit would be helpful in the first thing. But if you're like most people, after sitting for a long period of time at your desk, your posture tends to go downhill into this space. So every so often, take a few minutes and get into that proper posture and, just try to realign at the desk itself. So, and sitting in that, way back and head up straight could feel a little awkward at first when you first start, but the more you do it, The more you cue yourself to do it, the more normal that's going to start feeling. So a few stretches that you can do if you're at your desk all day and working that will help you. First things first, if you've been sitting for a long time, you don't want to go right into pulling a muscle into a stretch. You want to get up, walk around, take a little walk to the water fountain, take a walk to the bathroom, walk around, get your blood pumping. We want a little bit of circulation going before we're going to stretch a muscle. So a little bit of circulation. So either sitting or standing tall, we're going to start at the top and start working some stretches. I'm going to do it standing so that you can see. And I also feel like getting up from your desk and standing behind the desk is probably going to be more helpful because it's going to elongate everything to start with. Although you can certainly do some of these upper body stretches sitting. So first things first, so shoulder rolls, we want to get into that proper posture. So we want to start by bringing those shoulders up, rolling them down and pressing those fingertips towards the floor so that our shoulders are down and back. So rotate them, just really over exaggerating, and then inhale, exhale as you push down, getting those shoulders down and back. Make sure you want to have those ears over your shoulders. So first thing is just kind of level chin, tucking back and rolling those shoulders down and back. And that's the first step. Then we want to stretch out your chest and your shoulders, other parts of your shoulders. So if you want to take your arms behind you and link your fingers together, get those shoulders down and back. And then from here, inhale, exhale, you're going to get a stretch all through here because we've been forward. So that's the first step of it. And if you want to extend that stretch, you can lift those arms up just a little bit and you'll feel that stretch even more. And that's targeting your pectoral muscles, helps to open up your chest. Take some good deep breaths. You can release it. Go back up again and hold that stretch for 10, 15 seconds while you're breathing throughout and then releasing. Now, a standing version of this is also if you have near a doorway, you can start with one arm. You want to take that arm, pop it against something to level it against. You could even use the side of your desk and then turn and step away from it and get that chest opened up as well. So you would do that with both sides. So that's going to open up our chest. Big, deep breaths and really work on that breathing when you stand up and opening up your chest and open up the front of your shoulder. So neck stretching is another thing. When your head, for every inch forward of your shoulder, your head is sitting. It's like having 10 pounds of weight on your neck. That's why so many people are so tight through their trapezius. And if you are standing and you feel like your shoulders are up near the bottoms of your earlobes, you really want to get that stretched down. So for neck stretching, basically, we did a little bit of this with mobility work as well. You just want to drop it down to the side and on the opposite side, push those fingers towards the floor and feel a whole stretch all the way up. Inhale, exhale, come back to center slowly. If your neck is very, very tight, you may not get as far as I get, but you want to start, you only want to go with stretching to the point of tension, not pain. That's very important because it should not hurt. Pain, we don't need pain for the game. If you were sitting in your chair and you just simply want to stretch out that neck, hold on to the bottom of the chair on one side, use that as your leverage to level this back and forward. Another way to stretch out your neck is to do circles where you would drop your chin down, the ear goes to one side, bring it back, ear to the other side, come back to center, and then reverse the movement. So neck stretching, chest stretching, and neck stretching. Then we move down the body into our back and our lats. And again, we're in this forward position. So this is all kind of open forward and not really engaged. So your lat stretch that you want to do, you can take your fingers, interlace them in the front, and then push out here, hold your core tight, little bit of a pelvic tilt and push and reach, reach, reach to open up that mid back for a lat stretch here. You can do that seated as well, but you want to be holding that core tight to stretch out your lats. And then for the sides, just reaching up and over, holding on to something stable. If you've been sitting, you don't want to be dizzy, reaching up and over, stretching out the side body as well. The other thing, if you've been in your chair for a long time, your spine has gotten a little bit stiff. I always recommend, it's a little harder if you have a moving chair. So I'm going to try to keep that chair stable. Simply spinal twists. I'm going to reach over to the opposite side, give a little twist for my spine, reach over and give a little twist. So you could do a couple of these without even getting up from the desk. And as I mentioned earlier, another area of your body that takes a lot of abuse from sitting all day is your hips and your lower back. Our hip flexors, when we're in a seated position, this muscle here is in a contracted position while our glutes are in an extended position for long periods of time. You go to stand up, we need this to contract and this to elongate. And a lot of times there's a little imbalance going on there. So stretching out your hip flexor will help with that. Basically, you want to stagger your stance, step one leg behind the other, tuck your tailbone under, bend down a little bit. You'll feel that stretch coming right up. If you want to extend it, you can reach up and lean over to the opposite side. Inhale and exhale, and you're going to feel that stretch coming all the way up through the hip flexor, a little bit even on your inner thigh, up into the bottom of your abs. You do both sides on that one. Again, step back, tuck the tailbone under, drop that knee down ever so slightly, holding on to something. Inhale, exhale, move it over to extend it. Hip flexor stretch. Now for our outside of our hip, figure 4, stretch, something you can do on your chair. You're just going to take one leg over the top of the other one, come to the edge of the seat, and then you'll feel that already in the outside of your hip. Lean forward on that stretch, not folding over, but pivoting from the hips forward, and you'll get a stretch all through your glutes and your hip on the side. You move that down. We're going to go to the other side. And again, move that through. Feel that stretch. And when we're doing these stretches, we're going to hold them. What's comfortable for you, what you have time for, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Breathe through it, release, and then go back again. And oftentimes, as you do this a couple times, you'll get a little bit deeper and deeper into the stretch. But again, we want to stretch to the point of tension, but not pain. It does not, you don't want it to be painful. So we've got outside the hip, we've got the hip flexor, a little bit on the glute. While we're in that seated position, the hamstring is also in a shortened position. So stretching out your hamstring is important. From a standing position, you just put the leg forward. I'm lifting up my toes. Let me see if you can see that here. And then I'm just going to lean back, push my hips back, and I'm going to feel that stretch come all through my hamstrings. This is also a great stretch to do if you're a runner before you run, using mostly quadricep, but you don't want to pull a hamstring. And same thing. Inhale, exhale, hold the stretch, release it, come back to the stretch, maybe get a little deeper, inhale and exhale. So all of these things have taken up very little space, sitting right near my desk, easy peasy to do. Another one that I recommend is if you want to stretch out through your lower back, is come through here and reach down, just get a full stretch, elongate that spine. I'm pulling my fingertips forward as I push my hips back, trying to elongate everything along the way. So a lot of seated or standing stretches that you can do while you're at your desk. Going to go a long way towards helping to alleviate some of the chronic musculoskeletal issues that we have related to sitting at a desk. And now we're going to take it down to the floor for some things that you can do that will be helpful, a little program that you can do for yourself on floor stretches. And if you've done yoga, some of these may seem somewhat familiar. In terms of the desk stretches and some of the things that we've just done, those are things that I would highly recommend that you work into your workday a couple of times during the day. Maybe set a timer for yourself. The other thing that would be really helpful is just getting up more frequently. Getting up and walking for a few minutes, you know, at least once every hour or so for 5 or 10 minutes will go a long way towards helping your body feel better. So taking it down to the floor, maybe at the end of a work day or even to start your day out, you want to get a little bit loosened up. Some of these floor stretches will be really helpful for you. So if you're I mentioned if you go to yoga, you're probably familiar with cat-cow or cat-camel. With this stretch, we're loosening up that mid-back, that thoracic spine. So inhale, and I'm tucking my chin and I'm arching my back up high like a kitty cat. And then exhale as I drop down, hips go high, chin goes high, back goes low. So moving through these stretches, just holding them for a couple of seconds each and doing a number of repetitions of this will be really helpful. From there, I'm going to drop my hips down, more of a cobra stretch, a little twist from side to side. Inhale and exhale, and then shoot my hips back to child's pose here and just stretch that all out. You'll feel that through your side body, through your hips. And moving through that process again, opening it up through your abdomen and then stretching it back for a back stretch. So these little mobility flows or stretching flows are great to have for either a morning routine or an evening routine before you go to bed. We want to loosen up a lot of the stiffness that we have. This stretch here, the pass-throughs are great. I'm going to just go into a 90-90, tuck my elbow in against my kneecap on that side, and then reaching through, watching my fingers as I reach through and then come all the way up. It's opening up my chest, it's loosening up my mid-back, through, inhale, exhale, all the way up, and through and up. So both sides of those really helpful for your mid-back, from the other side, through, and then all the way up. I can't get that side because I'm against the wall here. So another great stretch to do. We did that hip flexor stretch against the desk. You can also do that on the floor, really helpful. You want to, again, tuck the tailbone, lean forward, get a deep stretch in this, and increase it by reaching up and over. From this point here, I can go right into a hamstring stretch where I push everything back and reach down, stretch out the hamstring on the other side, coming through and coming back through. A few of those on each side. For the inner thigh, when you've been tightened, you can do a stretch for your adductors here. So I'm one leg's out and I'm kneeling, and then I just shoot your hips back. You'll feel that stretch through the inner thigh as well. Reach forward for that and come back up and back down and back up. On the other side, same thing. Reach through and then come back up. So these little movements that are very, very short, more active, again, great for starting out the day, At the end of a long day, when you've been either driving or sitting at the desk for a long time, you always want to get warmed up first. You want to march in place, do some activities like that. So all of those stretches, and there's a lot of different other ones that are out there as well, but all of those stretches will go a long way towards helping with some of the musculoskeletal issues that we get from sitting too long. Now, we talked about static stretching as being the kind of stretching you would want to do after a workout or after movement. And so one of the things that is helpful with static stretching is a stretching strap. So stretching straps are great because they can help you just take a stretch a little further. So we talked about static stretching. So static stretching, when you're doing that kind of stretch, and some people really love a stretch, it really helps to, quiet your body, get a little bit more, extension. So after a workout, perhaps when you're all done, you can do some static stretching. Or again, at the end of the day, you want to do some static stretching. So for our hamstring with a static stretch, or any stretch really, first things first, you want to make sure that you're flat, your back is pushed into the ground. You're going to bring that leg up, and you only want to come to the point where you feel tension. You don't want to come to the point where it's really painful. I see people stretching and they're grimacing, they're in so much pain. That's really not helpful. You can do this without a strap, just hold behind your leg. The strap just gives you a little bit more leverage. When I'm doing a static stretch like this, I want to breathe in and breathe out, holding that stretch. And this kind of stretch, I might hold for 15 to 60 seconds just to feel the stretch through the back, breathing through it and just letting that muscle adapt to that longer extension. When you're done, you're going to drop that down, and then you'll go back up. And perhaps after letting that muscle adapt, you'll get even a little bit more stretch out of it. Now, if you're doing stretches like that, any kind of a stretch, whether it's a hamstring stretch, for a quadricep, I've got this strap again, the front of my leg. I'm gonna stack myself, bring that back up over, drop my hip down and feel the stretch in the front of your leg here. And again, hold the stretch where it's slight tension, breathe through it, let it hold for a while, and then release it. And once you release, you can come back to it again, and you might get even a little bit more extension out of it. No pain, just tension. That's what we're looking for on static stretches. And the stretches for the chest that I showed you, doorway stretches, same thing. You can do those as a static stretch. So those are a lot of different kinds of stretches that we've got going on that are all going to be helpful towards keeping your musculoskeletal system healthy. Hopefully you picked up some that you can do today, perhaps. And I'm going to just open up a chat box here so that we can have some questions. Anybody has any questions? Let's see. Andrea, if you want to stop the record